Okay, this is a fascinating class. We started the new year, the year of Tufshin Pei Beis 5782, right? How many times you learned the Chumash already? How many times have you read already the portion, this portion of Noah? How many times have you read it already? A lot of times. Many times you've learned this portion, and we're reading it again. The portion of Noah. The beauty of Torah is that it continues to grow, and there's always something that we can learn from it. And even if you learned something last year from it, and we're going to overgo it maybe again the same thing, there's always, Torah is Rechav min hayam, it says as deep as the river. It's never ending, and you always can go deeper and deeper and deeper into it. And that's the beauty of learning Torah in general. So therefore we read the Torah every year, again and again. There's no new book that we give out. Okay, the same book we read last year, we started again this year, and last week we did Parshat Bereshis, and this week we did Parshat Noah. It's sad always that usually we not learn Parshat Bereshis. We never give a class on Parshat Bereshis, because usually it's like the end of the holiday. So always we start Parshat Noah. We always start with this portion, the story of Noah. But it's truly, if you listen in to the portions, hopefully you're doing the portions, you're learning the Torah, you'll realize that the whole 2,000 years of the world is in the beginning of the 2,000 years of creation. From the creation to 2,000 years of the world is in the first two portions. Because at the end of this week's portion, we're introduced to Avram Avinu, that starts the journey of the Jewish nation. And Avram Avinu, Abraham, is born in 1948 of creation, not the 1,948 year of creation. So Avram Avinu was born in 1948, and ultimately starts what the Zohar writes, 2,000 years of Torah. So the Zohar writes this 2,000 years of world, which is the first two portions in the book of Genesis, Bereshis, and Noah. You have 2,000 years of Torah, which starts at the end of the portion with Abraham. And then you have 2,000 years of Galus, which we are in right now. 2,000 years of exile, which we are holding 5,782. We're at the last 200 and something, right? Something like that. So 82, close to 222 years of till Mashiach must come, at the year 6,000.
So the Jewish people are 3,834 years old.
Right, you figured it out. I'm impressed.
Yeah.
Very good. So the Jewish journey, I would say, not the Jewish people, because according to Kabbalah, the soul of a Jew was created before the creation of the world. So the Jewish journey of Avram Avinu starts at 2,000. Actually, the Rebbe writes, the first portion is pretty depressing. The second portion, this week's portion, is even more depressing. The flood, and we're gonna learn about the Deir HaFlaga, the generation of dispersion. And then we come to the end of the portion, which starts the happiness of life in Avram Avinu. And that's the beauty of the portion, at the end of the portion. And next week is a Machaya, Lech Lecha. That's when we start the journey of Avram Avinu, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And the rest is history. What? Now you can go home. So, we're going to go into a story which happened in the time of Avram Avinu, and which really brought about his journey, which is at the end of the portion of this week. After the entire story of the flood, where humanity seemingly came together, right? The flood brought about the concept was brought about through an aspect of humans that were hurting each other, killing each other, destroying each other, immorality, on all levels, right? And God said, the world was full of chamas. He said the world was full of chamas, is ultimately stealing from one another, basically not be able to live with one another. They were stealing from each other, thought that they had to hurt each other to be able to be successful. I had enough of this, and got rid of the world almost, and left Noach and his children. And here he created a world that would be, is the right word, homogeneous. It would be united, and the world was united. It was united in many fronts. It was united in language. It says they all spoke one language. The Torah itself says that they were all so safa achas. They all spoke one language. They all got together at the end of the portion to do something in unity. Right? They came together to do something in unity. Man, the whole world got together to do something in unity. And God was disappointed. And God was disappointed.
How?
How was he disappointed? And why was he disappointed? Here, this is the beauty of the world. They got together in unity.
To go to battle against Hashem.
Okay, but still, that was the only, right. But they got together in unity. But let's look at the words of the Torah. So this class starts off with Bereshis, the book of Genesis, chapter 11, verse 3 and 4. In this week's Parsha, in the story of let us go build, let us come together. So if you don't have the book, you can go to Genesis chapter 11, verse 3 and 4. Vayomer ish el re'ehu, and they said to one another, Hava, come, let us make bricks and fire them thoroughly. So the bricks were to them for stones, and clay for them to mortar. And they said, Vayomer, they said, come, let us build ourselves a city, a tower with its top to heaven. And let us make ourselves a name, lest we be scattered among the face of the earth. Let us create a united front. Right? So, what is the meaning? What was the meaning of their statement? So you look in the Rashi, in text number 1b. Yeah. I'm sorry, continuation of the pasuk. Continuation of the verses. Hava neda, come, let us descend. Oh, so what is God's response? What is God's response? What is God's response? God's response is in verse number 7. Come, let us descend and confuse their languages. So they had one language. God says, come, let us descend and confuse their languages. So one will not understand the language of his companion. So that's what we know, that they all had one language. So God said, I'm going to now create 70 languages. And what happens when you have different languages? People don't understand what one another is talking about. When you have that situation when people don't understand what one another is talking about, you have confusion, creates anger, creates division, and miscommunication, hatred, and everything else that comes with that. And God scattered them upon the face of the entire earth, and they ceased to build the city. So God, this is a negative and a positive response. Right? Because in the flood, God destroys the world. In this, God says, okay, I'm not going to listen. You're right, they're going to God against me, but they're united. They're good people. They think they're doing a positive thing. They think they're coming together to build something better. What's wrong with people come together to protect themselves? Right? They all, you can imagine the world was in a trauma of a flood. It was still in a trauma. We're still traumatized from things that happened, years ago. You imagine after the flood, the trauma that the human race went through, or whatever's left. It took him. It's not such a terrible thing. It took him hundreds of years of therapy. So, right. So what they wanted to come together and use their brains to make themselves, right? You say you can trust in God, and you can trust in God and also trust on making yourself a better existence, right? Is there something wrong with that? Should you trust in God and have a good alarm service? Should you trust in God and have a good lock and get a better lock in your house? Or you say, no, I trust in God, and therefore, there was robberies in the past. I'm not gonna get robbed because God's gonna protect me. No, you're gonna do both. Trust in God, pray to God, have a mezuzah on your door, and make sure that you have a strong front door and a bolted lock. What's so terrible? And if they came out soon with a new technology of a better door and a better lock, you should do both. So what's so terrible? What's so terrible that they got together and they said, let us build something, a tower. We don't want to get scattered. We don't want to have we don't want to, God forbid, a flood come and we'll be able to flood the world again, and we'll all be in huts. We need to be skyscrapers. We need to build high buildings. Let's go build a high building. We'll live on the top floor. And I'm gonna get you, don't worry. I'm gonna get to you. I went to Texas when there was the flood there. So imagine the trauma. We were helping people clean their houses. And one lady said, one thing, I'm not living anymore on the ground floor. I'm going to move it to a high building, and I'm going to live in a high building. So even if it's a flood, then Champlain happens. So they runs the world. God runs the world. In Miami, the building came down. So whatever. So so what's wrong with that? Or a person says, I'm not going to live anymore on a one ground floor. I'm going to live myself on a higher place. So if there's a flood, I won't get flooded. What's wrong with that? It's nothing wrong. Yeah.
If you're saying, when I'm reading it, my understanding is that when they were getting together, the focus was entirely amongst themselves, and they lost the focus of Hashem being the one, the creator. In other words, they removed him.
I understand here.
That they removed him from the picture and said, now we're taking control. And that's where Hashem is like,
I hear.
Good.
So, I agree. I understand. So that's the question is, that's why it's very difficult to have, is it difficult to have both channels? Is it difficult to have both channels? Seemingly humanity has that difficulty with having both channels. Belief in God and belief in whatever, in science or technology or the world. How do you bring them both together? How do you bring them both together? That was their challenge. How do you bring, they got together to do something positive. They wanted to protect themselves. You cannot condemn them on that from wanting to use technology or use their own modern innovation of bricks and going out of the hut and moving into something that is stronger and bigger and, the three pigs. So you want to live in a hut of straw? You want to live in a hut? You want to live in a house of a building that is strong and so what are you going to live? Are we going to live? Are we going to say let's still live in the caves because people were more spiritual then? They're living in a modern world where people where you need to use out modern technology and modern innovation to enhance your life and make your life better. This was their struggle. The truth is, this is the sikha that Rebbe teaches us that why the Torah tells the story. It's a very short story. Seemingly, most people don't realize this whole story because we're so stuck with the flood. The most of the story of the portion is the flood, and then the Torah throws in these 7-8 verses of a story that happened. Actually, when Abraham was alive already, the story of the Deira Flaga, the story of the dispersion. It's called the generation of dispersion. Where God dispersed these people and decided to create the aspect of separation, because sometimes unity, you can come out, a negative thing can come out from unity, not always is it can a positive thing come out from unity. So the Zohar, so to understand this whole concept, which you got already the taste of where the Rebbe wants to go with this, and the lesson what we need to learn from this, and the connection why Avraham Avinu is important to the story, and really the importance of Yidden, of Jews, to learn from Avraham Avinu and what he wanted to teach the world in the aspect of the journey of two worlds, the journey of the two worlds, to be able to have both worlds. Tevla is expression, Tevla Shamayim, Tevla Brias. It's good to man and it's good to God. To be able to be good to man and good to God. How do we be able to handle both of those entities? How to be able to bring them together? So the Zohar, it's a famous Zohar in text number 2. That's why it's important you have these books, because you'll be able to, first of all, to have these texts. The Zohar says in the year 6000, in the 6,000th year of the 6th millennium, 600th year of the 6th millennium, which if you want to put it into the number, it would be 5,600. That's the 600th year of the 6th millennium. 5,600. So it's around, in the English calendar, it would be 1839, 1840. So the Zohar was written by Rashim Bayachai, written in the times of the Talmud, before the times of right before the times of the Talmud. So Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai lived. The supernal gates of wisdom will be open.
He just had a vision of this?
No, he was a prophet. This will prepare the world for the 7th millennium. So this will prepare the world which means the 7th millennium is the coming of Mashiach. So the world will drastically change. The Zohar writes, and the world will drastically change from the 1840s. This, like a person who prepares himself on Friday for Shabbos as the sun begins to wane. So we all know, as I mentioned last week, Shabbos is a busy day. Friday is a busy day. We accomplish, for some reason, everything's left for Friday, right? And we realize we accomplish so much on Friday, more than we accomplish sometimes a couple days before Friday. Why? Because it's a time of Shabbos is coming, and you need to prepare. You need to get ready for Shabbos. And if you're not going to prepare for Shabbos, you're not going to have it on Shabbos. It's finished. So it's expression of the Gemara. Whoever prepares on Erev Shabbos will have for Shabbos. You're not going to cook on Shabbos. So whatever you're going to prepare on Friday, you're going to have on Shabbos, or else you're not going to eat. So you're going to realize on Friday, it's time to get rushing. It's time to move. So the world is going to realize it's time to move. It's time to develop. So it's time that means in the past, from that time, we're talking about over 100 years, right? 1840. It's 100, what are we talking about? 160 years. In 170 years. In the last 180 years, the Zohar says in the last 180 years, we're holding right now, is the world's going to change drastically. It's suddenly going to go, it's going to boom, explode. It's going to spiral. It's going to, developments are going to happen quickly. This alludes to the verse in the 600th year of Noah. That's what happened. The 600th year of Noah's life, the fountains of the great deep. This is this week's portion. In his 600th year of Noah's life, the fountains of the great deep were broken open, And the Zohar says, based on that verse, in the 600 years of Noah's life, is like the flood waters opened up in the world. In a positive way, the flood waters are going to open up in the world. The flood of the gateways of wisdom. And the windows of the heavens will open. Yeah? So the Rebbe says, evidently, in text number 3, the Zohar is referring to the fact that the gates of wisdom in general and the gates of Torah wisdom specifically would open at that time. This did actually occur with regard to the worldly wisdom. As for Torah wisdom, we merited in that era the revelation of the inner dimension of the Torah, self-understood, that also told us of the Alter Rebbe. The Chabad started in that time in the late 1700s, 1800s, early 1800s. Also started a revolution, Hasidic revolution in the world. Started at the exact same time. So you have a picture there. You have the picture there. Spread of the Industrial Revolution. Yeah. You have that picture on page number 6.
Yeah.
So around that time, you can take a couple of days, a couple of years here and there, but we all know that in the 1800s, the most important invention that happened in the world was electricity. Right? Printing. When was the printing press? So I have a list over here. Things that were created in the 1800s. The battery, electric lights was 1809. Steam locomotive was 1814. Camera was 1814. Stethoscope was 1816. Microphone was 1827. Typewriter 1829. Sewing machine, that's very important, 1830. Telegraph 1834. But telephone was 1876. Toilet paper, 1880. Thank God.
There's no toilet paper.
Motorcycles, 1885. Automobiles, 1885. The world changed, and once electricity changed the whole world. Because once that started, the whole world changed. The whole world changed. Everything started to move. And everything's starting to move quicker and quicker and quicker. Faster and faster. And today we're living in a whole different world. We're living in a whole different world. So you're talking, I'm sitting and talking here, and I don't know where those people are looking from, where. And all over the world, could be all over the world, and it's all due through energy, electrical magnetic energy, that is flowing through the world, as in the moment. So this phone that I'm talking in front of, right? Years ago, when you had a computer, it needed to be as big as this room. Today, this phone is stronger than that computer. And you can put it in the palm of your hand. So everything is getting faster and faster. Connectivity, connections, interconnections, human relationships we could have. Question is, have we gotten better with this or not? I don't know.
Some yes, some no.
That's the question. And therefore the Rebbe writes, the Rebbe says, that's why whenever God puts in he always creates two power forces in the world. So just like in the 1800s started, the Zohar writes, in the 1800s they're going to start to open up the gateways of worldly intellect and changing of the world, in physically, so too came about the revolution of the inner dimensions of Chassidus. So for the hundreds and maybe thousands of years from Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, which he was the one who wrote the Zohar, it took thousands of years for ultimately the Baal Shem Tov and for Chassidic masters after the Baal Shem Tov to start to bring out and reveal the teachings of the Zohar and the teachings of Chassidut, which came about almost simultaneously at the exact same time. And these two worlds ultimately came together. It's interesting also to realize that around the same time, in the 1700s, America came into existence, and also the Alter Rebbe came into existence at almost the same time period, which is the interesting concept of democracy, the way the building on them. Everything is divine providence. Everything is divine providence. Nothing happens in a vacuum. Everything is run by the Eibishter. That's the beauty. That's, my friends, the beauty of learning Torah. The beauty of learning Torah is to be able to see that everything that you learn in Torah is some connected. So it's not a flood that happened 3,000-4,000 years ago. It's something that we can learn from. It's not a dispersion that happened again 3,000-4,000 years ago. This story of the dispersion needs to have some kind of a connection to the two. So this is the struggle that happened then, and this struggle continues until today. And that's really the struggle that the Jews had with the world, and Jews struggle with that today too. How do you live a Jewish life and a modern life at the same time? How do we do the both of them together? Can we do the both of them together? Can you be spiritual and be normal, and have a normal concept, or have an understanding in science, or in everything, what's happening around us? So he brings down in text number 4. He brings down a statement from Rabbi Norman Lamb. Rabbi Norman Lamb actually just passed away a year ago. He was the head of the Yeshiva University in New York. He writes down. I'm not sure who Tertullian said. The term must have been in Athens. It must have been a Greek philosopher. Said, "What is Athens to do with Jerusalem? What agreement is there between an academy and church? For this Latin church father, the gulf between them is unbridgeable. Separation of church and state." I'm not getting into the discussion of separation of church and state over here. That's not my point. So that's not my issue. And it's not the issue here. The point is, what is the separation of these two entities? This assertion is one piece of his famous statement. You know what the statement is? I don't know. That he believed because it was absurd. But such anti-rationalism never found a warm and hospitable reception amongst the classical Jewish thinkers. By Jews, there was never such a problem. We never had a problem, even though most of us think that there is a problem between secularism and Judaism. There's no problem. There was never ever a problem with the world and God by Jews. There was never ever a struggle in how to live both lives, how to bridge them together. And most of us think that the rabbis, if you learn the Gemara, the sages were only sat and learned Gemara, and they only knew they didn't know any secular knowledge. They had no understanding in mathematics and in astronomy. But that it's so far from the truth. If you go to the Gemara itself, if you go to the Maimonides who wrote on astronomy, they were extremely knowledgeable in both worlds. And they extremely knew exactly how to deal with both worlds. And it was never a conflict in the Gemara between the world and God. It was a conflict out of the Gemara. It was a conflict out of the houses of study. And it's still not a conflict in the house of study in yeshivas, that there is a struggle between the world and the yeshiva. It was never such a thing. I went to yeshiva my whole life. There was never, that was a topic. This is a great struggle. This is a great struggle. You're going to have to give in one, you're going to have to give up the other. There was never such a thing. There was always the opposite. You went to yeshiva, especially you went to Chabad, you came to learn how to bring the two entities together. How do you bring these two worlds together? How do we bring to understand or to be able to deal with both of these worlds? And again, that is an important thing, and that's why it's brought down. The first two portions of the Torah is about the world, and then we start about the concept of Avram Avinu, which brought about the unity, bringing the name of God to the world. So self-understood, a person is born in the world. He's born in the world first, and then he comes by mitzvah or bat mitzvah, 12 or 13 years old, where then he's obligated to do Torah mitzvahs. Then he's obligated to start bringing God to the world and bringing spirituality to the world. First, he has to learn how to grow up to be a decent human being. Right? That's his education. So he needs to know how to bring God to the world. How to unite the two worlds together. Are they in collision? First of all, if you believe in creation, as you'll soon see, so God created the natural world. God created both worlds. He gave us a Torah and He created the world. If God didn't create the world, you say, well, you have a problem. We have a problem. We have the world and we have the Torah. We have a struggle between God and somebody, some other entity who created the world. But God created the world. If God created the world, same God who wrote the Torah. So God who created the physical, created the spiritual, God created both the physical and spiritual. So how can there be a conflict? Why would God make a conflict in something that He created both? What would be the logical reason to make a conflict? That's why the Gemara says a person has to make a conclusion. God doesn't give something that He cannot handle. Well, He created you. And He created the challenge. So why would He do that? What is he's playing games? He's sitting back and he's having a good laugh? What do you mean? The Eibishter created everything. He created the positive, He created the negative. He created the light and He created the dark. He created the world and He created the spiritual. He created both. He's the equal creator of both. Therefore, the spiritual cannot say the physical is not important. What do you mean? Just like the spiritual is important, why is the spirituality important? Because God created it. So God created the physical, just like He's created the spiritual. And therefore we need to respect both. That's why by Jews you need to respect the body like you need to respect the soul. You can't say, okay, the body's not important. Only the soul is important. You can't say that because God created the body like He created the soul. And you need to take care of both of them equally. Problem is, we get so involved with the body, we forget the soul. But we surely should not forget the body because of the soul. We don't have that problem. We have the other problem. We forget the soul because of the body. We never forget the body because of the soul, usually. Yeah, you with me?
Suicide is the result of the soul not remembering that the body is part of its existence.
It's not the soul. The soul never forgets anything. It's the body thinking that its own existence is the body, and not realizing that it has a greater existence. And then, when the body gets stuck in its own rut, it thinks that it's not possible. He has no greater existence. That's not true. And the body has to realize that he has a soul with it, and that gives it much greater possibilities and much greater existences. As expression goes, when God closes one door, He has another door open. Because God created all existences, all capabilities, all possibilities. If the Eibishter is your creator, so then how is there a limitation to possibilities or capabilities? So you have to believe that the Eibishter created. The Eibishter created the physical. So look how Jonathan Sachs says it in text number 5. The account of creation in the first chapter of Genesis is stunningly original, quite unlike any other in antiquity. There's no contending forces, no battles of the gods. The Eibishter is one God who creates everything. No character spirits. God speaks and the universe comes into being. God is not in nature, but above it, transcending it and ordering it according to His words. Nature has no will or set of its own wills, of its own. So this is amazing. The Eibishter, the same God who wrote the Torah, the same God who is the concept of godliness, is the one who created the rock. So there's no struggles. If you have, that's why the pagans and you have struggles, different gods for different things. David said, why does there need to be a struggle within anything in the world? There should not be any struggles. There should be total unity, because I'm the creator of everything. I am actually higher than spiritual and physical. And therefore to the Eibishter, to God, there's no difference between physical and spiritual. Maybe to us, we create differences. But to God, there's no difference between something physical, because He's above both. To God, both physical and spiritual is both a creation. This is an immense intellectual leap. If God created the world, then it is in principle intelligible. The mist of irrationality have been dispelled. So look how the Rebbe says it in a nice way also. In text number 6, the Rebbe. Science can be understood from within Torah study. You want to be the biggest scientist, you can open up the Gemara. Intellectual person can understand everything about building by looking at a blueprint. And the Torah is the blueprint of the world. Its expression in Pirkei Avos, in Ethics of a Father, it says, Hasfachva v'afa ben Bagbag said, this great sage said, Hafachva v'afacha de kulaba. You can learn everything from the Torah itself. And the Torah is a blueprint of the world, as described in the Talmud. Through his Torah study, Rabbi Yeshua ben Hanania was able to determine the duration of a snake's pregnancy. He didn't go to what do you call a school of animals. He learned it from the Torah. Likewise, it states in the Medrash, Shmuel and Rabbi Yeshua were able to learn all about astronomy through the Torah study. There are cases where the Torah explicitly commands us to study secular topics. For example, the commandment to calculate the Jewish calendar. When a Jewish person is in a place where Torah study is forbidden, then it's obligated to divert their mind to other kinds of wisdom, such as business and secular studies. Secular study is permitted when one lacks the secular knowledge required to properly understand the Torah study or the performance of a mitzvah. Like Rav, who was an apprentice with a shepherd for 18 months. The Gemara says he was an apprentice with a shepherd to learn how the working of animals are. This kind of secular research is not considered Torah study, nor is considered a mitzvah, but is considered a preparatory step to facilitate Torah and mitzvahs. academic proficiency to the degree necessary and no more for learning and living, or when one uses academics themselves as a profession. This is considered necessary by the means for permissible ends. So there's nothing wrong in secular study. 100%. We need to live in the world, and to live in the world, you need to get a profession. You need to get a degree. Thank you very much. You should get a degree to get a profession. Unless you can be like the Rambam, who learned learned everything from the Torah. If you have that capability, I don't know. I don't think might not give you a degree. But text number 7, Rabbi Shua ben Levi said in the name of Barak Kapara, anyone who knows how to calculate astronomical seasons and the movement of the constellation and does not do so, the verse says about him, they did not take notice of the work of God and did not see his handwork. So if you can be able to do astronomy and you decide because of holy reasons you're not going to learn astronomy, then you're denying God's existence in astronomy.
I like that.
So you need to learn it. You need to learn it. The Abishta gave you a capability to know astronomy. Then go into God's work of astronomy. Rabbi Shmuel ben Achmeni said in the name of Rabbi Yechanan, for word to derive from the mitzvah incumbent upon a person to calculate astronomical seasons and the movement of constellation, it states, and you shall guard to perform, for it's your wisdom and understanding in the eyes of the nations. Which wisdom and understanding is there in the Torah that it's in the eyes of the nation? What wisdom? Putting on tefillin is in the eyes of the nations a wisdom. Keeping kosher is going to be in the eyes of the nations a wisdom. No, it's going to be these laws that the Jewish people are going to deal with the moon. The secular world uses the sun. That's easy. Never changes. Right? 365 days a year. It's always the same. The Jews have to make it complicated. Right? The Jews have to go to the moon. And now we have a complicated calendar. And that's why this year we have to add another month. Because it's a complicated calendar. Very difficult calendar to grasp. Very difficult calendar to work out. Every month is different. Sometimes it's 30 days, sometimes it's 29 days. Sometimes it's 31, 30 days, sometimes 29 days. And it's never exactly the right number. The Gemara was there was a great sage, I forgot the name of the sage, who gave an exact calculation, the Gemara. And it goes, the calculation, because the days of a month is 29 point whatever, there's like 20 numbers after that. 20 numbers after that. So the sage gives us 20 numbers after that. I think it has been proven, I once gave the J. Lycos, and they brought this down, and they said, the number that the Gemara, the sage says in the number, and the number that Nassar came out with, the 29 point, is the last number, he's a 1 and they're a 0. But it's like a 1, the last number after the 20 numbers. So NASA, that had who knows what how many people working on it, and all the machinery and everything, all the computers, came up with the same number. So the Gemara, they asked the sage, how do you know this number? How do you get to this number? How'd you figure out this number? It's a very, very deep calculation. Very hard calculation. And he says ultimately, that's what Moshe Rabbeinu was told on Mount Sinai, this number. This is the number. And how do we know that? Because it says that God says to Moshe Rabbeinu, this is the Levana. And it means that God told Moshe Rabbeinu the exact number. It's not this is the moon. It's a very deep calculation. It's a mathematical calculation. And it's a very hard calculation to come up to exact calculation of what is a month to the moon. It's 29 with some with like 20 numbers after that. So I cannot do it. And the truth is, if you open the Maimonides, and he has a whole chapter on Kiddush HaChodesh and the sanctification of the moon, where he tries to, and he does. It's very difficult to understand what he's talking about. You need to know astronomy. You need to know the laws of you need to know the stuff. I never professed to know it, but try. Open up the Rambam. Maimonides, actually, it's in English even, and try to read through. See if you can comprehend the way the moon works, according to Maimonides. Where did he learn that? So the different opinions among the sages of Israel concerning the length of the solar year. Some opinion of Shmuel maintains it's 365 days and 1/4 of a day and 6 hours. Other opinion of Rav Adur maintains that it's slightly less that figure. And there's a difference of opinion amongst the men of Greece and Persia concerning this matter. So it's very difficult subjects in astronomy. And if you're astronomers, you would understand what this is. So, if you can do it, you can be Maimonides, or you can be a person who can know this concept. You should and do it. You should become a person who can figure out the sanctification of the moon and give a class. Teach us all what's the calculation of the month of the Jewish months. What?
I have a brilliant nephew.
Okay.
Brilliant, and he's always been a little strange. And I mean, he's just always been a little off. That's not the right word. He hasn't been like everyone else. And he's so smart. He went to college, then he went to graduate school at Georgia Tech, and now he works for Lockheed. And John calls it the Skunk Works. He builds military stuff. And so he actually, to me, okay, he's actually taking his higher knowledge and doing something good with it.
Beautiful. Tell him try to do this. See if he can master this. But the point is that you look through the Gemara, you look through the sages, you never saw that it was an issue. But we all know that this is an issue. We're not going to go hide ourselves in the closet and say that there's no issue, because the problem is that ultimately humans have used science and used this knowledge to contradict God, and that's where we have a problem. If we can use the knowledge of the world and secular knowledge and knowledge of astronomy and mathematics and all knowledges of science to be able to bring the two worlds together, then that would be the optimum situation. But we have used it a lot of times for the total opposite, to prove that there's no God in the world, that nature has its own agenda, and nature has its own power, and God, so to say, has no power in the natural forces of the world. And that's where you have to be very careful. That's where you have to be very careful. The Eibishter wanted, and that's why Avram Avinu was the opposite of the nation, the time, the era of dispersion, where people got together to separate God from the world. In essence, they said God couldn't protect us from destruction of the world, and therefore we're going to come up with technology and get together to build something different, so we won't have to come on to God's protection or to God's intervention, but we'll do it on our own. We'll do it in we'll do it in natural ways, and God created natural ways to be able to protect ourselves from these kind of situations. And that's why Avram Avinu, why the end of the portion is important to us in this week's portion, because it starts off with the flood, which is human evil, and it ends off with the building of the Tower of Babel, the era of dispersion, to teach us that even if there's not officially evil, it's a concept of seemingly good, where we're looking into development and unity and becoming more involved in the world and more reliant on the world, and so to say separating God from the world, that's also not the way to do things. And you need to be able to bring them together. So that's why we're going to skip text number 10 because it's already getting late. We're going to skip number 10. You don't do all these texts. So we'll skip to page 14. So that's why it's one of this, the Eibishter made, especially to men, a very simple mitzvah that they should do every day, which they can keep upon them every day. And that is the mitzvah of tzitzis. The mitzvah of tzitzis. You know what tzitzis is? It's a talus, right? You have a talus. So, or you wear a pair of tzitzis, right? So you wear a garment upon you. And the Torah says why? Not because God wanted you to be hot in Florida, but God wanted, the Torah says openly why He wanted a man to wear tzitzis. And it's in text number 10. There shall be fringes upon you. You should wear these fringes, these woolen garment, or linen garment, and they should have fringes upon them. So you should look at them. You should see them. And you'll remember the commandments of God. You'll remember who God, you'll remember what is, you'll remember who you are. You shall not wander after your hearts and your eyes, at which they're going astray. Because that's the normal situation in a human being. That it's easy for him to be influenced by what he sees and what he hears. And therefore, the Torah gave a simple thing. It's called a mitzvah kala, a very simple mitzvah. And that is to wear tzitzis. Or even to wear a yarmulke. Is also this concept. It's a simple thing. Not even a yarmulke is not even like people say, it's not a Torah obligation to wear a yarmulke. It doesn't say anywhere in Torah you shall wear a yarmulke. But it's the concept that you remember who you are. So even though you're walking in the street, either somebody else is going to remind you who you are, or you're going to remember yourself, who you are. And that's an important thing. So why? Because we are influenced by people. We are influenced by the world. We are. And that's something that we should, as Yidden, we should not be influenced. We should be part, we should enhance, we should develop, but we should never ever be afraid or be totally influenced by our surroundings. It's a very important thing. I mean, today we see, especially with anti-Semitism, that even in America, some officials said they'll take a yarmulke off, chas v'shalom. What are we going back to 1930s? It's like crazy. Chas v'shalom, we should never. That's anti-Semitism. That's a new JLI class in the end of October. Anti-Semitism. That was a advertisement for my JLI class for anti-Semitism. But it's true. You see, that's a problem. The problem with anti-Semitism, I don't want to go to it, it really is not the concept. It's what happens to the Jew. It's affecting the Jew that we start to get influenced by the will. We start to be afraid, and we start to hide under the beds, and we start to hide from our Yiddishkeit. That's the bigger problem with anti-Semitism. What anti-Semitism or other things that's happening, which is a problem, but really the bigger problem is the Jewish problem, that the effect that anti-Semitism has on Jews and has on our relationship with Yiddishkeit and our relationship with God is what anti-Semitism, how it affects us. And that's the problem. So the Eibusha says, listen, I know you're humans, and the more you get involved with the world, the more the world's you're gonna be, the Babich Rebbe said, we don't live in a vacuum. Either you make an environment, or you become part of the environment. You got that? Either you make the environment, or you become part of the environment. You can't. We're going to fight the environment. So either you make an environment, or you're going to become part of it. You fight it. That's the drill. You can't fight him. You join him. We're going to live a life of fighting something your whole life. You can't live that kind of life. So therefore, the point is to make an environment. Or change the environment. Or go to another environment if you can't make an environment. If you have a problem with making an environment, go to a positive environment. Or make an environment. Lubavitcher Rebbe sent out shluchim throughout the world to create an environment. They didn't come to a place where they wanted them even. They asked for them. They created an environment. That's unbelievable. That was an unbelievable thing by the Rebbe. Most other Orthodox, you went to a shul, you were a rabbi, you went to a shul that was inexistent. You're looking for a rabbi, go find a position for a shul that is in existence. The Rebbe said, no, I want to go to a place that only want you. Right? And create the environment. Create the environment. See if you can create the environment.
It's hard.
It's hard. No, I'm not arguing with you. It's very hard. But it's real. It becomes real. Because then you're gonna create something. You're gonna create something. So not always you can go to another environment. You have to create the environment. So first of all, you have to realize that you're not the same like the environment. And then you have to say, I'm going to create this environment. So that's why the Eibishter put in certain things in a Jew that'll always be able to realize he needs to do that. He needs to either create the environment or move to that environment. Go to a place. Like people say, a lot of people tell me at the time that I haven't seen in a long while. When I'll be in Israel, I'll be someplace else. I'll be different. So move there. What do you mean? When I'll be someplace. So either move there or make it here. That was the expression of the Mittel Rebbe. He said, "Mach da Eretz Yisrael, make over here Israel." You're right. We're going to go to Israel, but until then, I can't be a Jew. So you have to make it here. You have to make it here. And you could make it here. If you wanted to make it here, you can make it here. Oh, the struggles, there's the outside world, no. God didn't give you something that you cannot handle, and you're going to be able to do it. If you want to do it, you're going to be able to do it. Why? Because they're both godly. So if you believe in God, God put you in a certain place, in a certain situation. He wants you to do the best. He wants you to create that environment. Is it easy? There's a famous song, I never promised you a rose garden. That's true. Never promised you a rose garden. The Rebbe, once there's a video, the guy, a middle-aged man, passed the Rebbe, he says, I took over this yeshiva, and I so many burdens. It's like overburdened. The Rebbe said, whoever promised you anything? He took over the yeshiva, and you thought everybody's going to come and give you... no, get to work. Get to work. That's it. That's your avodah. That's your job.
He didn't complain, right?
Huh?
Well, the Rebbe never complained. This
No,
was too hard.
that's right. That's what the Rebbe demanded of him. He expected it. He accepted it for him. Because the Rebbe demanded it on himself, and he never complained. He did what he was supposed to do.
Are we not called to do things, whether we like it, to do it with joy, or even to
Right.
fake it until we make
100%. 100%. But it's difficult. I'm not arguing. It's difficult. But you're going to realize things that are difficult, and you're going to overcome. You're going to get great satisfaction from. You're going to get great satisfaction. No question. Things that you are going to that you're going to change is going to be real things. Things that other people are going to change for you. Things that other people are going to then it'll be wonderful, but it's not real. Real things is things that you're gonna do. You're going to accomplish. And that's the way the Eibishter made the world. That's the way God made a human being. So God said, I want you. Well, I want you live in a spiritual life, and everybody else is going to make things is going to set up for you. You're going to be walking through this world like with somebody else protecting and no. You got to do your own. You got to. What is your involvement in the world? What have you changed? Where's the environment that you made? Have you made an environment in this world? Have you done a change in the world? Where is your stamp? Where is your stamp upon the world? Think about that.
I think the problem is that being given the Torah as a small nation, like, we have to accept that the Torah puts us in a position of leadership, and not everybody gets that, and not everybody wants that, but it's our, we're born into this, and we have to accept it. Like
I agree.
you said.
I agree. And that's what the Mishnah says, Bakar Chatachai, you're forced to live. Somebody asked me, they're able to put you on a mission, because God put you on a mission here. You didn't choose to come down here. You were put on a mission. Yeah?
I was going to say, it's Baruch Hashem for my parents, who set an example for me, because I spent my major adult career
Right.
in Jewish communal service, putting together groups. Actually, that's how for John and I first saw each other. But I didn't. I was too busy working to notice him. And he's still mad at me about it. But I put together groups of young people to socialize, and some of them got married. And I've done a lot of things for a lot of different Jewish groups all over the world. And I feel
Beautiful.
that I really
That's
have a
good.
contribution.
Beautiful. But I want to. Well, I'm gonna go. I'm late, so I'm gonna go to the next text. I'm gonna skip a little bit. Text number 12. Pick the texts which I would. No, let's go right there. I don't want to get stuck in that. I want to emphasize what the Aisha wants to say, because the truth is, the Deir Flaga. Look, he says, this is what the people really wanted to do. They wanted to establish a civilization on the moon. See, the Aisha lived a couple hundred years ago. There was no rockets to the moon, but it's still today. We're trying to run to the moon, whatever. We're trying to run out of space. You have these guys running out of space. We're running out of space. That's the basic kavanah in life, right? We're trying to run out of space. They were trying to live on the moon. We're still trying to figure out how to live on the moon. Like there's not enough room in the world. We're trying to live on the moon, where they would be able to spread from the future flood. See, people try to run away from reality. Try to run away from reality. And people will even run into nature to run away from reality. That the God runs the world. That they have a purpose in the world. You can't run away from... The reality is God is the one who created the reality. And that's God. You can try to run away. You can try to run within nature. You can try to run even through spirituality. Whatever. Run wherever you want to run.
What is the world?
What?
What is the world?
What?
What is the world?
What is the world?
Yeah, maybe the world includes the moon.
Yeah, I'm not with you. But the point is, who cares if you're running to the moon, running to the sun, running anywhere? You're just running. Stop running. There's no place to run. There's no place to run. They're able to put you on this world for a purpose. That's where you need to be running. That's it. So these guys wanted to run to the moon. These guys want to run here. That guy wants to run. Nobody wants to do what they're supposed to do right here on this world. Everybody thinks it's something going to happen in a different world, in a different situation, a different reality, in a different place. It's right here. It's this place. Right here.
But didn't God create the moon?
Yeah, but God didn't put you on the moon. He put you right here. If God wanted you on the moon, you would be right now on the moon. Right now, God wants you in Boca. That's it. Doesn't want you on the moon right now. If He wants you on the moon, He'll get you to the moon. Right now, the Eibishter wants you in Boca. That's what's important. Right now, what to do today. That's what God. That's the point of nature. Point of nature is what the Eibishter put me in nature right now. What am I doing in a natural world right now? What's the importance of today's nature right now? That's what's important.
Yes, but it's against science.
Oh, if you're a scientist, that's your job, then gesundheit hate. Think about the moon.
Yes.
That's it. But Zalman, I'm not a scientist. My avodah is not to worry about the moon. That's not my agenda.
No, of course.
That's it. So my avodah, my service, is how to live my life today. I'm just using the moon as an example. I'm not using the moon as actually the moon. To me, a moon is something else. Okay? To me, a moon is I'm running to Facebook.
Yeah.
Okay? I'm running to the internet. That's my moon.
Okay.
Okay? Because I'm running away from reality. So I'm running away. So if I want to run away, my moon is a different moon. Okay? But it's the same concept. The Dera Flugger, not they wanted to we want to learn it. No, they said, let's run away from reality. This is a reality. It would be a flood again. Like God didn't have control of the flood. It was some kind of natural thing that God didn't have control. What do you think? If God can make the flood on the earth, He can't make a flood on the moon? Since then, so they were running away from this reality to run to another reality. That reality is out of control of the first reality. You're taking with you the same thing. When you run away to another reality, when I run to my moon, whatever that is, which today the moon could be, as I said, my internet, my stupid technology, which I use to run away from the real world, waste my time, is just another moon. I'm basically not realizing that I take along with me everything that I had in the past, in this moon to that moon. That's it. That's my
I
point.
just wanted to make a comment on science and Torah. Torah never has dispelled science, like you stated, and it states Torah has accepted science. Science has also been a gift to science comes from who?
From God.
Hashem. So science has also been able to give credibility to what we know to be true, but others not, that the Torah is correct on many of its statements of scientific, like you said, with the lunar calculation. So science, especially when it comes to medicine, Torah and science are unified. Even Torah acquiesces to medicine because of the saving of a life.
Correct.
So it's not two polar opposites. They work together.
100%. They have to work together.
At the end of the day, it's under the guidance of Hashem. And that is where we differ from people who don't live that spiritual life.
Correct. I agree with you. So that's what we needed in. Science is not a contradiction to Torah, and Torah is never a contradiction to science. They're both created by God. So text number 13. Popular opinion used to be that all natural forces exist independently from one another, and the matter of this world is comprised of many disparate elements. But as the world makes increasingly more scientific developments, we have come to recognize that much of the disparity in really only external facade. They really do come together, and on various parts contract and expand each other, ultimately minimizing in the sum totality. And that's the beauty. That's one of the beautiful things going from science, is that ultimately you're going to realize that everything is united. Everything is united. And who can bring such unity to the world if not God? Who can bring such unity to so many different things, that everything is truly one entity, is only the Eibishter can create such a diverse situation and bring it actually all together. So therefore, that's why the Mishnah was written thousands of years ago, says it so clearly that everybody should look at this Mishnah. Something that a Tana wrote. He never saw the internet, but he knew that this is the most important thing, and that's text number 14. We're going to end. Contemplate three things. Histaklu is contemplate, but histaklu means to look. Look at three things, and you'll never come in the hands of a transgression. Know what's above you. See, a seeing eye, a listening ear, and all your deeds are being inscribed in the book. That's it. Realize that there's above that everything that what you see in front of your eyes, everything, there's something above you. There's an Eibishter, there's a God that runs the world. Even though the computer in front of you is so powerful, there's something above you.
Who wrote this?
Stak B'Shosh B'Dvarim?
The ethics of our
This one.
fathers.
This-
After my father, it's in
No,
it.
but who was the?
It's not Rebbe.
It's not.
Kavim and halal alim. Hakavim and no, that's a different expression. Who's exactly at 2-1? Look it up. I think it's a Rebbe, but it could be it's if it's nameless, then it's Rebbe, but I'm not sure.
You mean Yehuda?
Just choose one.
Who's Rebbe? Yehuda?
Rebbe, no. Yeah, so it's Rebbe. Rebbe said.
Who's that?
Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, the one who wrote the Mishnah. So the one who wrote the Mishnah, right? He lived in times of for destruction in the time of the Romans rule. Staka b'spleisha dvarim. Look at 3 things. Always look above, right? Even though it's hard, your eyes are glued to the TV. Your eyes are glued to the internet. Your eyes are glued to the. Always look above, my friends. Never, because if not, you're going to come to sin. What you're looking in front of you is going to drag you, God forbid, into an Aveda. Drag you into thinking that this is devoid of any godliness. This is like it has its own agenda. And you're going to become the Dela Flugger. You're going to become like the generation of dispersion. We have to be like Avram Avinu, who taught the world, and ultimately through the Torah, the journey of a Jew through the Torah is that we, God forbid, don't argue with the world and use the internet for good things, use the world for good things, learn from the world, elevate the world, bring God to the world. There's no contradiction between the two. They can actually work in hand, and you can enhance each other and develop each other and go in the journey together with each other, which is ultimately the journey of Mashiach, which the world is not going to come to an end. Judaism doesn't believe Mashiach is the world's coming to an end. That's the opposite. The world will be even greater existence. We're not going back to the dark ages. We're not going back to the cave times when Mashiach comes. We're going to still live in beautiful buildings and beautiful homes and beautiful places and drive beautiful cars. There's nothing wrong with that. We're just going to live, we'll live a unity, a life of unity between the spiritual, within the physical world and the spiritual world, and there won't be anything. And we can do it right now. Wish you all a great day, a happy day, a healthy day. See you next Thursday. Have a wonderful day, guys.